Hey folks, welcome. My name is Roque, and I'm here today to talk to you about 10 things I'm sure we'd all, as gamers, would like to see in Snail Game's new Sandbox MMO, Dark and Light. Before we begin, I would like to state that most of the content shown in this video is not owned by me. My sources will be posted in the video description. Fair warning, I often get sidetracked when I talk about subjects like this, so you may see a lot of that going on throughout the video. Also, I've done a little bit of research on the game, but I do not know everything about it, so if I make a mistake or suggest something that is already confirmed to be upcoming or going to be in the game, please forgive me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Number 1. Unrestricted trade system. Now when I think of trade systems in a sandbox, I think of it in simple terms. If we go out and kill some monsters and they drop loot that I cannot use, I should be able to give that loot to you, or sell it to whoever and or do with it what I please, which is how it should be, even in any game. I can give something to you, you can give something to me. Fair trade. Now where this begins to become a problem is when a game tries to restrict your access in terms of trading to where you can't trade soulbound gear to another player, or you can only trade so much at a time, or you can't even trade anything at all. Period. The most recent game I have as a reference is Black Desert because it's one of the most recent MMOs I have played, and I completely understand why you would want restrictions on the trade. You would want to combat gold sellers, exploits, etc. But when you restrict these gold sellers, exploiters, etc., you're also punishing the player more so than you may realize. And 9 times out of 10, the people who are using these exploits / gold selling will find some way around that, which was also proven in Black Desert during its launch. Therefore, in my opinion, it's better to just leave the trade system unrestricted, especially if the game is in fact a sandbox. Number 2, class balance. This one isn't as big for me as I'd like it to be. I know that class balance can be a slippery slope, and most times it's probably the hardest thing to accomplish in any game. But I cannot begin to tell you how many times I've played a game where one class would be so incredibly powerful that it could just dominate all the others without much thought or effort. It is true that some class types, such as Rains, will always be the most powerful, just because of their mobility / sheer power, which they sacrifice their mitigation to maintain. But if there's a class that can walk up to you and two-shot you, or keep you stun locked for 12 seconds straight, or anything of the sort, that's when it becomes a problem. But hopefully we'll have a system and lineup in place that prevents these kinds of issues from happening. Here's to hoping. Number 3, PvP freedom. PvP freedom. This is one of the things in sandboxes and MMOs that I like to call a double-edged sword. And the reason for that is because when I think of PvP freedom in a sandbox, I can usually envision that if one day I wake up and log into the game and decide, hey, you know what? I think I want to go on a murderous rampage today. That I should be able to walk my happy butt out of the safe zone and go Leroy Jenkins on whoever I find in the wilderness. But there's always an issue with that. The first issue is that it's all fun and games until it happens to you. Repeatedly, I might add. That is in where the first part of the sword lies. I like to refer to these types of people as the bloodthirsty ones. Now with these guys, 10 times out of 10 they'll just kill you because the wind is blowing or the sky is blue. And hey, I understand. I get bloodthirsty sometimes too. Sometimes the only way that these people can enjoy the game is through the PvP system, which means someone's gonna have to die. Would you ever see me doing this? Nope, probably not. I like to enjoy all aspects of my sandbox. PvE plays a big part of it, aside from the PvP. And just like Duratan, I prefer my enemies armed with an axe, not a sickle. This is what you would get when the PvP system is unrestricted. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not. Sometimes people quit games over people like this running around. It happens in every sandbox. And I know what a lot of you folks who play sandboxes and have for years would say to that. If they can't take getting killed in a sandbox, then they shouldn't even be playing the game. / they should just go back to WoW. And although on that first account I do agree, considering you can't really expect to never get killed in an unrestricted sandbox world if you're ready to quit right after that first death. And if you are, then maybe it's not the game for you. That does not mean, however, that I think it's the way it always should be. Because I have seen a lot, and I do mean a lot, of people being driven off of sandboxes because they were just getting repeatedly spawn camped for no reason and losing all their stuff over and over and over again. And then on the other hand, of that sword, you have the griefers. These are the type of people who would be there if the PvP system had restrictions. Heavy restrictions. I'm talking about the type of restrictions that would flag you for 5 minutes just for accidentally hitting someone, which is also known as blue blocking in some games, or going criminal after a few kills trying to defend your pack of mobs. When you restrict the PvP system so heavily that people would rather leave the situation than fight for what they want because they're afraid of being penalized, that's when you know you have a problem. When I think of sandboxes, I think of free play. I think that if I'm gathering some ore outside of town and someone tries to come over and mine the same node I'm on, then I have the right to pull out my sword and go ham on them. I want that freedom in my sandbox. I love having options, and I know other sandbox lovers do too. So if these penalties were in place, then I might have to leave rather than defend my ore for a number of reasons. There could be more people in the area who would attack me on sight if I were still flagged. I might have to run to safety but get killed by the guards or other players instantly because of the flagging system. Or I could get permanently flagged just because I really needed that ore and I had been searching all day long for some. And that guy would be laughing it up, farming the rest of my ore with absolutely nothing on, so he doesn't have to lose a thing if he dies and gets no repercussions whatsoever. And I would take a death by someone wearing huge armor and a big freaking sword any day over that. However, a solution to both of these issues is that there could be safe zones that are protected by guards but still have no penalties for PvP besides possible death from said guards / players, and then danger zones where anything goes, similar to what Albion Online was trying to do in its early stages, like green, yellow, red zones, that sort of thing. Number 4, PVE content. When it comes to PVE content, I consider this one a big one. A lot of times, all there is to do in the sandboxes I have played over the years is PvP. When you engage in PvE, it's to get ready for PvP. When you enjoy the thought of PvE, it's because of how strong you think you'll be in terms of PvP. And most times there isn't enough content PvE-wise to hold the players over. So in turn, the only other option is to turn to PvP. This also creates and further fuels the scenario I mentioned earlier of the bloodthirsty ones. Eventually, if you run out of things to do in a sandbox, then obviously you would try to find a way to enjoy it. And what better way than going around and trying to kill everyone in sight? The adrenaline in PvP is amazing, and the thought of getting someone's hard-earned items is even better. This is why PvE content is so important to have in a sandbox, and I mean a lot to PvE content. I know there are people out there like myself that want more to a sandbox than just a giant death match. We want to go out and hunt down dragons, even tame them. We want to go out and build our kingdoms. We want to make something of ourselves. We want that feeling of crafting the best two-handed sword in the game, or armor capable of tanking 2 to 5 people at once. And the feeling of selling off that creation and knowing someone somewhere will be using something you built. And no matter what, it's always going to be there in the world. Just like the adrenaline of PvP, these feelings are important to have in your game. It adds to it. This would be something I would like to see in Dark and Light and other sandboxes have as well. A lot of PvE content. Number 5, no cash shop / cosmetic only. Okay, now we get to the fun topic. The difference between pay to win and buy to play. The one and the only, cash shop. Alright, first, please let me say that I've seen this done right. I know it can be done. Some good examples might be Elder Scrolls Online, Guild Wars 2, games that have a cash shop with mainly cosmetic / luxury choices only, or even have no cash shop at all. And then we have the wrong type. Arcade, Black Desert Online, games like this that have unfortunately put in a system in place where if you spend cash, you can have a significant advantage over the other players without having to put the same amount of time in. It is so important, and I cannot stress this enough, that other sandboxes do not end up like this. Like, I like to be stylish in games. If the game has a cash shop where I can buy a red and black trench coat or a giant flaming direwolf mount, I'm good. Perfectly fine with that. And I think a lot of other people would be too, just as long as they aren't overpriced, hopefully. But the game will be buy to play as I understand it, so we will be paying right when we get through the door. Therefore, ultimately, I think the best thing you could do for a buy to play game is to avoid a cash shop altogether. But I also know that caring for the player doesn't put food on the table, so if it has to be done, I just hope it's cosmetic only. Pay to win is never the answer, and we gamers do not like cash grabs, and I do not believe losing countless customers just to make a few more bucks from the community is the way to go in the long run. Number 6, server stability. This one, of course, is very important for any game to strive for. Server stability is probably one of the most important aspects of an online game and should never be taken lightly. This topic should also serve as a warning. Whenever a new game comes out, especially in MMO, the servers always get flooded. Countless people, probably like myself, who have been looking and looking for years upon years for a good game to call home. We check out your games on release, and we come in boatloads. That means no matter what the hype is, no matter what the statistics say for the betas, on release, you are guaranteed a huge audience coming to check out your party. This means, of course, that the game needs to be prepared. I've been in on so many releases that went absolutely terribly because the servers got dunked on in the first few hours of the game releasing. Or the queue was so atrociously long that you couldn't even get in the first night. And I don't know if it was due to poor planning, someone just tripped over the wrong cord, or hit the do not press button, or what, but it happened a lot. Some examples? Well, let's see. In Arcade, had to wait in 2 4 to 8 hour queues on release day. Queue crashed once the first time and I had to get back in the queue and wait another 4 to 6 hours just to get in. I was the leader of my guild with 400 people in it, and I had to wait about 10 hours to get in game to start working on the guild to get it set up for them. Another example, Blade and Soul. The queues were so darn bad that on the first few days of release, that not only did they have to add new servers just to keep up with all the players, but I had to switch to one of the new servers called Dochun because my server still had like a 2,000 person queue after that update. And I don't even know how big the queue was beforehand, but I didn't even get to play most of the days. And I was playing games about 14 hours a day back then. So the best advice I can give is to make sure your servers can handle a boatload. And I do mean a boatload of people. Don't have to go crazy with it, but even mega servers would solve the problem. One plus I'm sure we can all agree on is that having a smooth launch the first day, minimal crashes, no queue times, or very little rather, and decent frame rates / optimization would be a huge bonus for the game, and for the company as a whole. Number 7, constant community communication. Now for this one, first off I must say that personally, I don't sit on the forums all day long, waiting for game information about potential updates or rumors, or just to chat with the community. However, I know there are folks who do, and for them, I write this topic, because having good communication with your community can never go wrong in the slightest. If your server crashes one day and we don't know how long it will take to come back up, or if the team is even working on it, and the game headquarters are in San Francisco, for instance, and it's only 2 p.m. on the West Coast, then Houston, we've got a problem. One thing I believe makes a good developer / publisher is to keep your players informed. So if you're telling us every hour or every 2 hours that they're still working on it, you apologize for the wait, or anything of the sort, it's going to do a lot of good for the players. That's something I'm sure we can all agree would be proper crowd control. Also, with updates, it'd be really nice to know what changes are going to be implemented on what days and what expansions are on the way, and everything like that, so the players will have ample time to prepare to enjoy that content, or to possibly switch up the way they play to make those changes optimal. Number 8, non-gender / race lock classes. Here we go. Gender lock / race lock is something I cannot stress enough, because for some people, if they can't play the class that they want because they would have to switch genders or races entirely to do so, the game may be over for them before it even begins. And I know that for most, this isn't such a big deal, but allow me to explain why it is for people like me. When I was younger, I used to play games with female characters quite a bit. The first game I did this on was due to female characters having faster animations than the boys. This game is called Guns to Duel. One day my brother walks in and essentially screws up my whole outlook on this by saying it's a little weird that I'm playing a female character in-game even though I'm a man in real life. And although I knew that it wasn't that weird at all, and I had a valid reason for it, it completely screwed my mindset for years to come. And still. So nowadays I only play male characters. And now I actually enjoy doing this because I start to feel more immersed in my game when I do. But when I want to play a class that's only for females, it becomes a bit of an issue for me, just not because of what happened a few years ago, but also I can no longer feel immersed in my game. Sometimes I like to shape my characters how I would like to be in real life, so obviously playing a female is not going to work out in that regard. And it altogether feels a little weird to me. And I'm sure others have different reasons, but that would be mine. And over the years, a few action combat games here and there have had systems in place where the classes were gender locked or race locked. Terra's Reaper / Gunner classes being a good example. Really wanted to play those, but didn't want to be a little girl in a skirt, or just in general. So I hope beyond hope that other sandboxes, including Dark and Light, have unrestricted classes for more customization options. Would be really nice to say the least. And with only a few races, I think it would make more than perfect sense in that way. Number 9. Gameplay, animations, sound. These are some very important aspects of any game in my opinion, because when you're not playing a game for the story or the graphics, usually I'd probably say you're playing it for the gameplay. So if the game looks and feels and plays pristine, crystal clear, then I would say it has a much better chance of being successful. Now most old school sandboxes, they don't have good graphics, and they're anything but crystal clear or pristine. You take Mortal Online, Darkfall, Worm Online, most of the other sandboxes, I suppose you could say EVE Online looks pretty good still, it has been upgraded over the years, but in any of those, the main thing is the gameplay. They're really fun to play, addicting even, there's a lot to do, the controls might not be so easy to handle, but in some cases, that makes the game even more enjoyable once you figure it out. And I think the gameplay does go hand in hand with the animations, and especially the sound. When the animations look good, your whole game shines. I personally love the look of seeing a huge greatsword carried on my character's shoulder, or the look of a bow being shot sideways, and just little things like that. Animations, related usually to martial arts games like Age of Wushu for instance, which also comes from Snail, are ones I prefer. And the sound design only adds icing to the cake. If the sound of my sword hitting an enemy's weapon makes a good clinking noise, I'm probably going to enjoy swinging it twice as much. These are aspects that I hope Dark and Light shines for. It looks really, really good graphics-wise, especially if it's been upgraded from what I've seen it start as when I did some research, as I will show you now. But the main aspects that make a good sandbox, I believe, have to do with the ones I stated above. Number 10. And as for the final topic, we have actual sandbox features. So the most important thing that I think needs to be in this game is what it's advertised as. As I said in the beginning, I did minimal amounts of research, but one thing I know that I saw that they wanted to be in this game was they wanted it to be a sandbox. I think a trend that needs to be broken is related to games throwing that sandbox tag on anything that is not incredibly linear. If I can play a game, but only have instance housing, or I can only kill people in certain areas, or I can't even play the game I want to play because there's only a few ways to go, then I can't really consider it a sandbox. We need features that are going to properly represent what a sandbox used to mean. I'm not talking about theme park sandboxes as well. I've seen a few of those already. I'm talking if we want to go out and build a castle from the ground up, then I believe we should have that option. As I said before, one of the feelings that's important to have in your game is the one of a player building something from scratch and feeling that accomplishment. If we're following default layouts, just placing something down that's already designed, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't have the same impact. It might not even feel like you're building anything, more of a repair job instead. Another feature, since we're dealing with classes, is that there should be enough options for playing your class that you shouldn't have to worry about following a standard way to play. I know personally that what I like to do is go for the unusual routes and see where that takes me. But if that's guaranteed to take me to rock bottom, then of course there's no point in even trying that route. So all in all, I just hope the game incorporates the freedom of how a sandbox should be. That's really what we need now as gamers, is freedom. Hey folks, thank you all so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed. Please be sure to follow and subscribe for more content. This was my first time doing a video like this, so I hope I covered all the important topics. If I didn't, please be sure to comment with your thoughts below. Also, I would like to thank all the people that had content I used in making this video. Links to the videos will be posted in the video description. Please be sure to check those out. And thank you again, folks. I hope to see you next time, and catch you later. See ya.